one heck of a program for this evening. We have just a tremendous panel that you'll be hearing from in just a few minutes. But you know, we need to get through the first part of all of the sort of procedural things before we get to the fun part, which is listening to the panel that Karen Kirchner has put together for us tonight. It's really an extraordinary group. I want to welcome you to our first meeting of the year. This is the first meeting of the program year, and it's going to be just fabulous. So it's been a busy summer. Our chapter had our strategic planning session back in July, and I have to tell you, we have plans. You will enjoy the ride. It'll be great. You'll see that we've done a number of things. We've created strategic partnerships with the International Coach Federation. We've cemented our partnership with the SHRM, our sister SHRM chapter. And we have a programming schedule and programming topics that are not to be believed. They fulfill our mission to ensure that each of you gets the programming and the content that is cutting edge, useful, and will make a real difference in your organizations and in your personal lives. So I want to welcome you for tonight. There's a couple of things I just need to go through, and of course, with every meeting like this, we need to do the safety pieces. So all of you know where the exits are. Exit, exit, exit. This is like a, you know, there's lots of ways to run out. I'm sure I've seen so many familiar faces that I know that for those primary drives that need to be expressed behind closed doors, that if you don't know where that is, you can ask your neighbor because they've been here, and they'll tell you where the ladies' room and the men's room are. Many of you, there's a few new faces, so I want to remind you that we broadcast virtually all of our meetings. We are one of the few chapters that does that. And it is part of the value proposition that we provide to our members and to our profession, because we want to make sure that you get the information you need. So if you can't be here, and I have to tell you, being here is a lot better than not being here, then you can then be part of the session by dialing in and clicking in, and that connection and that URL is tied to each of our meeting notices. So I want to thank everybody who's dialing in tonight. I want to say welcome. Say you will be missed. You'll see a good show, but you're missing a great dinner, and more, you're missing important and fabulous conversations. So, a few privacy things. The camera generally is focused to the front. Sometimes it'll move a little bit if you're asking a question. So if you're very shy in front of the camera, if you're part of a witness protection program, please then don't ask a question, because you may end up on camera. So, since this is our first meeting of the year, in June, many of you elected new board members. So I'd like to ask the board to stand up. We'll go around the room, and we'll do just a quick introduction, board member, who you are, and we'll pass around the microphone.
Hi, Lane Rodney, I'm treasurer. I'm also in charge of sponsors. If anybody wants to be a sponsor, please see me, and we will get you signed up on the sheet.
Hi, I'm John Wagner, part of the programming team.
Hi, I'm Monica Walters, and I'm in charge of corporate relations and the senior leaders meeting.
I'm Nancy Urell, and I'm past president.
Good evening, I'm Sandra Long, and I'm working with the social media team.
Hi, Richard Montanero. I'm the community of practice lead for the number of the community of practices that we have as part of our cohort group.
I'm Ann Chang, and I am the webmaster.
I'm Laura McNerney, and I'm a co-chair of membership.
And I am Mary Beth Schroeder, and I am her co-chair.
And I'm Ross Bartel, and I'm president. And as Ann Chang pointed out, when it comes to, I forgot. Oh dear. this is what happens when you're president. You have everybody else who helps to coach you through.
Thank you, Ross. I'm Steve Gartner. I help with programming and I'm his coach.
As Ann Chang pointed out, I love that, and she said, Ross, you're going to be the last man standing on the board. So, everybody else has managed to sit down. Now, one more thing. You know, this is a chapter that has incredible connections to people. So, as I look around the room, there's a couple of people who are past board members. Will you just kind of like wave your hand? We don't need to introduce you, but there's a couple of people. And so you see, there are people who have not lost their connection, partly because of the relationships they've built, but of the values that they've had, and the values that they've gotten. So, thank you. Mary Beth. So, we have some new members.
So we have a nice tradition at the beginning of each meeting to formally welcome folks who have decided to join our chapter. And so what I would ask is if you are a new member of the chapter, you just raise your hand so I can pass the mic and you can introduce yourselves. Any members tonight?
We're trainers, you gotta do it.
I was recently asked to do a reading at a wedding, and she said, I don't know if you're afraid to speak in front of groups of people. I said, well, no, that's kind of what they pay me to do. My name is Samuel Larkin, and I work for Subway Franchise World Headquarters in Milford, and I'm the Human Resources Manager, and one of the many hats I wear is Organizational Development and Training.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Greg Druckman. I work at GE and I'm in learning technology.
Yes. Thank you. Welcome. Yes, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Janet Dez-Ovaladi, and I'm in learning and development, and right now I'm between roles.
Thanks, Janet. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Maureen, and I'm a newbie coach for corporate and life coaching.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Am I missing anyone?
Hi everyone, I'm Amori, and I'm with Prudential in the HR department and executive coach.
All right, and I'm going to hand the mic over to my, did I miss him?
No, I was going to say, same.
Hi again, this is Laura, and I just wanted to talk for a moment about volunteer opportunities with our chapters. So for the 6 or 7 new people, because I'm always looking for a new person that might want to become a volunteer with the chapter, we have opportunities in all of the areas that you saw our board members stand up and introduce themselves, whether it's finance, website, you can work with the webmaster, and membership, programming. So if you have an interest and you'd like to become more involved with the chapter, on the resource table over here, you'll see a printout of volunteer opportunities with contact information for each area, or you can just contact me directly. But we'd love to have you get involved in any area of interest, and that could turn into a long-term opportunity, and then we'll recruit you on the board, and the rest is history.
Hi, I'm Sandra Long, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about our resource table. So we have a tradition here with APD that we have a resource table that's available for all of us to put our materials. So if you have materials, you're welcome to bring them, and as long as you remove them at the end of the evening. But I wanted to point out some special materials that are here. We have some power member information. So if you're thinking about joining the national chapter, I really would urge you to take a look at this information. We also have some information here from the AMA, our partners, and if you'd like to talk more about that, Cheryl is here to talk to you, and she's in the green. And we have some other brochures and information, so we're happy to share this resource table with you. And the second thing I wanted to mention is that I'm really hoping that you'll all join us on Facebook and Twitter. This chapter has had a LinkedIn group for quite a while, and we have a brand new Facebook page and Twitter page. So all you need to do is like the page and also like all our posts, so you'll get all the news, and we'll keep up to date. We want to stay close with all of you, even after the meeting. So we want to, that's how we're going to do that, and we will be putting posts on about tonight and our speakers. So we look forward to seeing you on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you. And don't forget LinkedIn.
So one of the things that we did this summer is establish a strategic relationship with the International Coach Federation of Connecticut. So I'd like to hand the microphone over to Sheila Wall, who's the president of that chapter, because that's part of what we do now.
Excuse me, I am recovering from a cold, so a little hoarse today. But thank you, Ross. I want to announce our kickoff meeting, which is this Friday, September 25th, right here at the Norwalk Inn. And we'll be having Denise Hedges speak on a topic that is entitled Selling Without Hype or Manipulation. Denise has over 30 years experience in sales and marketing. She's a pretty well-known speaker in this Northeast region. She really will be talking about selling and marketing coming from really your authentic self, which I think at the end of the day is really what people are looking for today. So I hope that you'll be able to join us. The meeting starts at 8:30 and ends at noon. And there is a free networking meeting that Steve Vaccaro, who will be talking about business development, especially for the solopreneur. So thank you so much. Thanks.
So for those of you
There's
who...
more material regarding it over on the resource table.
And so two things. One is, you notice the importance of the Norwalk Inn in our lives. We keep coming back, it's like homing pigeons. And the importance of the resource table. One last thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to Wayne to talk so we can pass and introduce our sponsor. And that's in the type of culture we want to create and maintain as part of this chapter. As you can see, it's a cooperative, collaborative, partnership type of culture. And so there are three groups within this culture, generally. There are those who are in transition, those who have resources that they bring to corporations, and then there are those inside corporate who are internal practitioners. The three form a very important relationship and bond, and that's built through communication and relationships. And so build that relationship before you start to say, what can I do for you? And that's an important part to all of this. Because all of us live in this together, and all of us are stronger than any one of us individually. So, Lane?
Bob, would you like to come up? I want to introduce you to Bob Dixon from Dale Carnegie. He's our sponsor for tonight, and I want to tell you a little story about Dale Carnegie. My first training class was like 30 years ago with Dale Carnegie, where they did like the learning to speak. So now I'm able to talk in front of people without being afraid. And I also learned then that, you know, one day class is not that you need to do practice, and repeat, and that's what I like about the training. So Bob, here he goes.
Thanks, Lane. Good evening. All right, I got you with food in your mouth, like a waiter. Yay. All right, so welcome once again. My name is Bob Dixon, and I am from Dale Carnegie Training. And we love sponsoring the panel event. And the reason being is because there's a lot of you here. We love that. All right, and you know what's even better about it tonight is it's not that we are all pasty white like we usually are in April when we do this thing. It's you still have your summer tans. I can see that. Everyone looks great. So that's even a better perk for this night too. And we do want to appreciate that there is a really esteemed panel of people, and I do, as Ross said, get so much out of this this group tonight because you find out so many new, innovative ideas. So I'm as excited as you are to hear what everyone has to say. And I'm going to turn it back over to who, Lane? All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Lane. Have a good evening and thank you.
Thank you, and I guess we're ready to start the program. Ross, should we?
So, turn it over to Steve Gartner.
I think Karen's going to.
We're going to take 5 minutes to get our panel up there, and you can continue.
Okay, so everyone keep on eating and talking to each other then.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And also plenty of time to get your questions. So our format for this evening is going to be that I'm going to ask each of our panelists to give a brief introduction of themselves and how they leverage coaching in their organizations. And then I'm going to follow up with specific questions for each of them. And then we're going to open it up to you. So if you have something that you're absolutely dying to ask, try to wait until the end, but if you feel like it's so relevant that you need to say it just right then, just raise your hand. And we do have a couple mics that we can send around because it's hard to hear in a room this size. How is this sound? Can you hear me? Am I too close to the mic? Sorry? Okay. Please give us feedback because we're working with a bunch of mics here and I always should miss anything that's going on, so let us know if there's any issues. So we have assembled representatives from 4 different organizations to help share with us how they leverage coaching to both achieve business outcomes as well as to help develop talent. And I think what you'll find in listening to these 4 leaders is that they each have a unique perspective on this topic, which is really quite complex. I am an executive coach, and I also run the chapter's coaching community of practice group, which meets quarterly. And if anybody is interested in finding out more about that, please let me know, because we're always looking for people to join the conversation. So let me just briefly introduce you to who we have here, and then I'm going to have them follow up with more information. So Immediately on my left, we have June Amori from Prudential Annuities. And June has, interestingly enough, transitioned from a chief marketing officer role to an executive coach and a VP in charge of talent initiative. So she has kind of that unique perspective of a business person turned coach, and she's now an internal coach at Prudential and will share that perspective with us. Maureen Hunter, who's a PhD, is manager and global lead of leadership development at IBM. And she's been explaining to us that she and her group are responsible for equipping leaders to participate in the continuous transformation that's happening at IBM. So she's got some unique challenges and perspectives as well. Then we have Michael Leckie, who is VP of Service Delivery at Gartner. And Michael has an HR background, but is actually on the business side now, heading up consultants who are former CIOs and technical leaders, and now advise Gartner's clients, the most senior clients, on everything from leadership development to technology strategy. And he has a unique story to tell about how he's leveraging coaching within that environment. And all the way over, on our left, we've got Julie Staudenmier, who is Executive Director of Leadership and Organizational Development at Boehringer Ingelheim. And BI has, not only does Julie head up a lot of the leadership development and organizational capabilities and transformation initiatives at BI, she also oversees coaching, and BI has done a really great job of utilizing and capitalizing on their internal resources to provide coaching. So she has a lot of interesting stories to tell about how leadership development participants then go on to add that kind of value within the organization. So, with that brief overview, why don't I turn it over to June, and if you could just tell us a little bit more to what our appetite is about you. Thank you.
So can everyone hear me? Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here, and it's great to be a new member. So I thought I would divide my remarks into two parts. First, I'd like to share with you what Prudential the Enterprise is doing, and then a little bit about my role in the Annuities division. So from the enterprise standpoint, we do have a coaching program. It's centralized in what a function called a talent organization in our headquarters in Newark. And it wasn't always that way. In the past, and it's only been that way for the past 3 years or so, in the past, each business unit inside Pru did their own thing. They sourced their own coaches, they negotiated fees, and what we found that we needed to do a better job at is making sure that the supervisor was more involved, that there was an action plan, and that these engagements had a specific time frame. So everyone, all the business units agreed that we needed more discipline around that, so it's now centralized. So how do we leverage coaching right now? It's really 3 different ways. First, it would be the conventional way you think about executive coaching, so it's that one-on-one, for a specific time frame. And it's a equal level, some directors. And basically, it's sort of like a top-down approach in some ways and a bottom-up. So top-down would be successor development, right? So we've identified positions that we want to make sure we have a ready now successor. Bottom up would be we've identified leaders who have a challenge. These are people we want to retain, but they have a gap, 1, 2, or 3, let's say, gaps that the supervisor and the HR business partner have identified, and so a coach will be engaged in that way. So that's more or less the, sort of the one-on-one. One of the things that my corporate partner told me that comes out quite a bit is around executive presence. It's kind of a big topic, it means a lot to different people, but that's a current theme. The second way we use leverage coaching right now is through our leadership development program. So Prudential has a series of 5 leadership development programs. They're tiered by level. And what happens is each one of them has a 360 assessment component. And so we employ coaches, a lot of them, to come down to Newark during the program itself and debrief on the 360. And then afterwards, spend a couple of more sessions with them to develop an action plan, so it's not just drop. And if the individual wants to continue, that's great. It's at the discretion of their business unit, and certainly at their expense. So that's the second way to use it. The third way is leaders as coaches. And this is kind of interesting. We've identified about 12 to 15 individuals that we feel are very high potential. And we started this executive development program, so it's very broad base in terms of how we want to develop these executives, because hopefully they're going to take over a business unit someday. And so not only do we assign a coach to them, but they are now certified in coaching, which is kind of unusual. And so the idea is the multiplier effect, right? So they're now certified, they're modeling these skills for the people that report to them and others that they come into contact with. And so we're hoping that it trickles down into the organization and becomes more of a coaching culture. Going forward, what Prudential Enterprise wants to do is really take a look at our coaching program and make sure that it's tied very closely to our talent strategy, right? So if successors are important to us, how do we make sure we're leveraging coaching for that? If we want the coaching culture, and another way we want to use coaching in terms of our strategy is talent mobility, right? So how do we make our talent ready to move from function to function, business unit to business unit? So it's very important that in our future state it's tied to our strategy. The second thing is we want to make sure we have the right coaches. Right, so right now we work with some major firms that source our coaches. Are they the right firms to work with? Are we getting the best coaches for our folks? And of course, it's the big one in the coaching industry, of course, it's the measurement. How do we measure? And there are some things going on right now in corporate with business analysts that help us really crack the code on that one. So that'll be great. And finally, how do we communicate? How do we communicate with all of the leaders to let them know the value of coaching and how and when to use it? So that's really at the enterprise level. Now I just want to talk about my role. I have an unusual role in the fact that I am an internal coach employed in the business. Right, so we do have a couple of folks who are trained as coaches in corporate, in the talent organization. But it's a very small part of their job. Whereas with me, it's about 20-25% of my job that I spend coaching. It's really the best part of my job. So what I found in my coaching, and I do VPs and I do director level folks, is that what I hear from the supervisors is the leaders are not being strategic enough. They're in the weeds. They're not developing their teams. Their styles irritating people. They have relationship management challenges. And so that's a lot of the stuff that I hear and places where we would use coaching. And again, these are people we want to retain. This is not, like years ago, I think coaching was used to say, this is the last stop. If you can't fix this, you're out. It's very rarely that. Although there are some instances where we have people we really like to retain. They have a derailleur, and they have a short period of time with which to. I have a big mouth. Okay, thank you. So I'm almost done. So basically, that pretty much sort of summarizes the kinds of things that in my particular work that I'm doing. And of course I'm doing successor development as well. So, good evening. Sounds like everybody can hear me. Okay. So I've been an internal consultant and I was an external consultant for a long time, independent. And probably about 9 years ago, I got this idea. I felt like I had so many client organizations that I'm carrying around in my head. Wouldn't it be great to only think about just one? And so somehow I landed at IBM and recognized 400,000 person organization, as complex as we are, is not one organization. So for me, it's been a real learning process around how does an entity of that size really look at growth and development for its leaders. And I think for us, as with many organizations, we'll talk about
It's the pendulum swings, it's up, it's down, depending upon what's going on in the business and people's appetite to entertain conversations about growth and development. I think that we have traditionally had a very strong process around at least identifying potential leaders and doing some of the more conventional things of developing those folks. And so I think now we are looking more from a coaching model and how can we strengthen our pipeline. But I think what's more exciting for us at this stage is also looking at executives who are at senior levels, mid-level, and being willing to entertain the idea of coaching, personal development coaching. It's not just about a particular area of need. It's not just about how effectively they are able to engage their people. It's also about who are you internally and what is it you bring to the table. So I think we are starting to see the resurgence of the idea of helping leaders to understand that they are their own best instrument. And how can we utilize coaching as a way of helping them to get in touch with what that might mean. We also have a very strong tradition of building on the leads. So I would say that a lot of our coaching has been about how do we help leaders to develop those that they either do directly or others in the organization that we want them to have a connection to. So I think that we are now, so we continue that tradition, we continue to deepen that tradition, and we are now probably entertaining more the use of external consultants than we have in the past, with the idea that, as I'm sure many of us who work for organizations, that sometimes we get very insular. And so understanding that now being able to have a fresh perspective or someone who can relate what our executives are experiencing to things that are going on outside, it's becoming more, there's more of an appetite for that within IBM. So it's similar to the my role is I am, as Karen said, the global lead and manager for IBM's global leadership development team. And so that is a group of about 13, but my team only focuses on experienced to senior executives. So we really are looking at your folks who have been within our organization on average 20 years to 30 years plus. And how do we help them to turn? How do we help them to turn and change on a dime because some of the things they have been doing are less effective. And so utilizing external coaches, utilizing peer coaches, combining coaching with action learning are some of the things that we have been experimenting with at IBM and look forward to sharing more.
Hi, I'm Maureen. I'll try and make this brief so we can get to the questions that you've already submitted, the ones you have. I'm going to start backwards and tell you what I do because I'm in a bit of an unusual spot in the fact that I'm no longer in an HR organization development type of role. I run a business. We have a business called Executive Programs. It is our CXO, primarily CIO advisory service, for which people in your organizations pay us to come on and help them make their decisions. And there's a component of that is certainly about the technology and the technology advice Gartner provides. But there's also what do you do with that knowledge and how do you make the right decisions now that impact your brand, etc. So when I was in an HR role at Gartner, which is where I started, I introduced a program around coaching skills for our staff that goes out and meets with CIOs in your folks' organizations. We had somebody from Subway here tonight, so Carmen's having to do with one of my team while we're here. We kind of sneak in the door coaching-wise like that. So I've been training people within our organization to go out and work with our most senior executives that are our clients and help them be able to not only bring to them the answers that Gartner has, the expertise advice, but to really do that sort of process and consulting compound that helps them figure out what to do with that advice. So we've been doing that now for about 8 years. It's I think, hopefully contributed to Executive Programs being one of our strongest, fastest growing, and most successful businesses with very high retention rate of clients.
Pretty diverse and interesting panel so far, huh? I'm so delighted to be here, Karen. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for joining us this evening. I work with a company called Boehringer Ingelheim, and I have to say, a little less than 4 years ago, before I joined you, I had no idea what it was. So I'm going to begin. For those of you, I have a sense that here in Connecticut, BI is a bit better known. I want to say a bit about BI, however, because it has everything to do with what we're doing in the arena of coaching and why we're putting so much emphasis on coaching within Boehringer. So Boehringer is a top 20 global pharmaceutical company, the largest privately held family-owned pharmaceutical company. And it's been in business for over 130 years. It has a very interesting culture. And I was being interviewed when it was a senior line leader, the head of the company in the U.S., to the various functional heads of HR who had an opportunity. Each and every one of them highlighted our read and learn principles. So this is something that cultural thing is deep in bone. And what I love about these principles is that they begin with a question. So it's not, these are our values and we state them like that. It's, are we doing these things? So you'll notice as you listen to these values that they have everything to do with what you would expect to see or want to see in coaching culture. So it starts with, are we taking initiative? Secondly, are we connecting? Thirdly, are we growing together? And fourth, are we getting results? So it's all of this leading up to results. Those last three in particular are all about how do we develop and coach and create capability that is strong throughout the organization. So as I came on board, one of the things that I was paying attention to and that my team worked together to develop is this notion of how do we build a coaching culture such that people throughout the organization embrace this notion, this identity of a coach for themselves. And we did that by focusing on three different arenas, and we all begin to see it. Big believer in the rule of three and alliteration as well. So we'll start with the first C, which is a common core framework. Like you, June, one of the things that I've seen across many companies is that if you don't have a framework for what kinds of coaching is appropriate when, it can really get pretty wild and woolly, and sometimes you're spending millions of dollars on coaching without knowing what the results are. So one of the first things we've done is to create a notion of what kind of coaching is appropriate for what kind of situation. When do leaders coach? When do HR business partners coach? When do external coaches coach? When do internal certified coaches coach? What's the right scenario for that? And the other area of commonality that has helped us quite a lot is to have a common framework, a common model of what coaching looks like and what effective coaching looks like. So that's the first thing, common core framework. The second has to do with community. How do you build a community of people who are skilled at coaching, who support one another in coaching? So in this common model, which we emphasize at our very senior level executive development programs, our mid-level programs, our frontline level programs, the alumni of those programs then operate as coaches to other parts of the business. And we've done some really fun things like coaching clinics, where we'll set up a set of stations in one building where we have coaches from another building who will come over and spend a period of time working with colleagues from another part of BI's business and coaching in real time on an initiative they need help with. So that builds a community among the coaches, but it also builds community across our various business functions and helps us to break down silos. The third C is capabilities. We want to build those coaching capabilities by developing people in that consistent way, and of course by building those capabilities, increase capabilities in whatever area it is that we're providing coaching on. So those have been our primary focuses, and a lot of it was underway well before I came to BI. I can't take any credit for it. What I do think we're doing differently, though, is really embedding and doing a consistent set of messaging from top to bottom around what we mean by coaching. Thank you so much for that really helpful overview. To follow up, I'm curious. It sounds like each of you are in perhaps different phases of establishing a coaching culture, and it sounds like that's a pretty consistent objective. And I'm curious, where you feel you are in that transformation, and kind of what's next for you as you roll that out. Maureen, maybe we could start with you.
Sure. I think that we are, sometimes it feels like we've gone back to the beginning, and in terms of really reestablishing the understanding around coaching. And I think, part of the challenge that we have is, our executives are incredibly motivated to do good and to help those. And so sometimes it's like being on an airplane where you got to remind them, well, you've got to start with yourself first. And I think that's probably one of our biggest challenges, is helping people to understand that it's not just about what you do for others, but it's also how do you open yourself up.
and to being willing and open to coaching. So I think that's right now one of the areas that we're really focusing on. We also are really focusing on linking coaching and transformation. And so I think as many organizations, we recognize that transformation is just really the name of the game. We're always transforming. And certainly a lot of our phases of transformation have focused on products and services and structure. And now we've actually added a new thread to that. It's the idea of leadership as a part of transformation. So a lot of our coaching efforts now is around how do we help leaders to understand what it means to be a transformational leader, starting with themselves and what they bring to the table. And so we're doing that both through external coaching. We are also having senior leaders coach others in the environment as well. And so we're doing both in tandem so that they have an opportunity to both learn and then also look at how do they then share what they're learning and practice what they're learning and apply what they're learning as well. And we're starting to cascade that down into the organization.
Great, thank you. Julie, how about you?
I'd have to acknowledge that we're about 50% of the way to the journey's end, which of course never ends, but to where we think we need to be as a starting point. And that is to have a true coaching mindset that embeds and is reflected in our day-to-day conversations. So I mentioned this common model that we use, and many of you are probably familiar with it. It's the inside-out grow coaching model that Alan Fine developed along with a few other pioneers in coaching. So if you think about where are we in terms of consistently in our conversations drawing out of people the wisdom that they have and helping them to grow and embrace and execute on the ideas that they have generated for themselves and so are most motivated to execute, versus telling people what the solution might be. I'd say that we still have a good ways to go, and it's very encouraging to see how planting that seed and having that be a consistent message about what it is that we expect when we think about coaching, we are making progress every day.
Jen, how about you?
The only thing I would add is Prudential is in the early stages where we're figuring out where we want to take this.
As I said, we're at Prudential really in the early stages. When you think about the executive development program and that we've certified these 12 to 15 people and that the second class is going in, there's a commitment, right? So at that level, there's truly a commitment to creating this culture. I think what Prudential is looking for now is scale, right? So that end results. And so I think we need to do a lot more work around those two things. And I think we're beginning, but we're still pretty much in research mode.
And Michael, is that actually, I know you've got kind of a different application of coaching. Is that something that is an overall goal of Gartner's, or?
A coaching culture?
Yeah.
I can't speak for overall Gartner. I would say not necessarily. What's interesting about how we've done this is, again, since we're teaching people to be coaches for our external clients, when we first started doing it, we worked only with the senior folks that were going out and doing that. And how it's evolved is that every single employee of the business unit actually goes through the program to learn how to be a coach. We run 3 classes a year, people all across the globe when they come in from all levels. And what it has done within the business unit, without a stated goal, is created a culture. Because when we first started doing it, we didn't make it theoretical. Here's how you coach someone. We said, okay, you want to learn to coach? Be coached. So we brought them in for 2 days. It was fairly intensive, and they coached each other. They stumbled around with new models. And it's really interesting to see an operating committee level executive talk for 6 minutes with a administrative assistant level person who coaches him using a new model, and he has a major breakthrough on something he's been struggling with. So it's taken root without having been an overt strategy, I guess we might say. That's useful.
That's impressive. So this is a more general question, and I'll throw it out to anybody who feels like answering it. What do you think really makes the difference between a successful and an unsuccessful coaching engagement? Whether you're dealing with internal resources or external, what do you think really makes the difference there?
I've really seen the magic happen
when a couple of things. The coachee has a burning platform. There is a motivation that they have, whether it's a bad review, or it's a promotion they're after, or things are just not where this individual wants it. So they're motivated to make some change. The other thing, and I think this is equally as important, is the role of the supervisor. We all think about the coach, and the coach has to do this, and what you need to get the best coach, but it's really, in my experience, the supervisor. And where I have seen the magic happen is the supervisor is really clear what behaviors need to change, and preferably in writing. So it's in their appraisal, it's in their individual development plan, and so the coachee is really clear on what needs to change. The other thing that I've noticed is, and I've had to coach some of the supervisors around this, is they need to give feedback to the individual as they're making incremental changes. You can't wait until something major happens to give them feedback. You have to talk to them and say, you're going in the right direction, do more of that. And so I've really seen that work really well, and I think the last piece is runway. So, especially being an internal coach, this is really important. So, if we're going to invest in an individual, give this individual a coach, and set goals and all that, we have to give them the runway to succeed. We can't say, see, they've already done that in that meeting, they're slipping back. Everybody has to be in support of this, at least the stakeholders who are involved. And that goes for HR as well. So give them the runway, he or she the runway to succeed. So that's where I've seen some real magic happen.
I think for me, the two areas that I think are important for us are context and relevance. And so we are beginning to experiment with the idea of more personal growth, but it has to be a transformational leader. And so for us, we find that our folks tend to be able to gravitate or grab onto it more when they say, well, how is this helping me today? How is this helping me tomorrow? And then the other part, therefore, relates to relevance. Why is this important for me? And I think what the advantage of what we're seeing with coaching is people are starved for feedback. And so in a time when people are so incredibly busy, the focus is on the business, clearly, and yet still who you are as a person has an impact, and being able to have a venue where they can begin to talk about and explore what that means, we're finding is generating a lot of energy.
Not a lot new to add to that, some nuance around it though. It reminds me of this is a paraphrase of the old joke, how many change consultants does it take to change a light bulb? Just one, but he really needs to want to change, right? So the same for any kind of coaching assignment. The individual involved has to be highly motivated, which is just what you began with, June. And to build on both what June and Maureen stated, the system around the individual is critical. We can't expect that an individual alone will be able to change, and without giving them the runway that you're describing, June, and without making sure that stakeholders are watching for those changes and looking for success as well as confirmation of old behaviors.
I think the thing that I would add is, and again, we come from a different place, so we are fortunate that our coaching doesn't have to be measured internally. It's measured externally by do our clients come back and renew. So for me, it is the ability of the coach actually, regardless of where the coachee is, to use its Shine's process consultation model to stand in that place of ambiguity with no power over a solution and help somebody not to coach them for performance, but coach them for development, which is had a really interesting effect on our business because our primary measure is do we retain our members. And we have the kind of situation where one of my team will go and sit down with their member who thinks that they're really going to be talking about technology, strategy, what's happening in mobile, and tell me about cloud. And an hour later, there's a big tear running down their face as they realize what's holding them back in their career. So we're kind of stealth coaches. We don't advertise it, and as a result, we get to do a tremendous amount of it because we don't bring an agenda other than we're just there And as long as my team can stay in that place of ambiguity and be comfortable with that process role, they can be very effective. When they become an expert or trying to direct where they're going, they usually fall miserably on their face.
Question, please. Julie, you talked about stakeholders watching for success. Do you encourage stakeholders to give feedback or feed forward regarding success to support and to reinforce what's being done?
Yes, amen. Feedback is often a component when we bring in an external coach and in our internal coaching as well. So we have a 360 tool that we've developed with an external partner that we use that's centered around the BI Global Leadership Competencies. And when we hire an external coach, we ask that they use that if they include 360 feedback as part of their coaching methodology because it increases the relevance, it connects it to what's important to BI. After you have identified and gotten that initial round of feedback, the individual, the coach, and that person's leader thinks through what are we learning, what are the key themes, what is at stake for me, what do I care enough to do something about. And with that message, we encourage the person being coached to go and have a lot of dialogue, their own dialogue with people who matter to their success, and to ask, to say, this is what I'm working on, and here's where I'd like your feedback as I move forward.
So one of the things that you've all mentioned to some degree is using internal resources, which makes a lot of sense because we all know that coaching is very expensive when you engage somebody from the outside. And I'm curious what you see as both the advantages and challenges of using those internal folks to coach leaders or peers. Michael, let's start with you this time.
Well, and again, talking about, something external, what's been interesting is the stated intention of our program was to coach our members. What's happened is we've built a huge cadre of coaches across the business, coaching each other. And they all know the methodology, which is interesting. I've seen them sit down and someone say, I can you really use some coaching on this? I know what you're going to ask me. You can say, you're going to ask me this. And, actually did one of my team once and went through the whole thing. I should do that. And they hadn't said a word. They looked at me and said, you're welcome. So there's a familiarity. One of our stated goals was let's have a shared vocabulary and shared framework so we can help each other. And that's how we really learn, our real learning environment when we guinea pig on each other.
Great. Julie, how about you? Because I know that you do a lot of that at BI.
We truly benefit from having strong partners, Karen included, as part of our external coaching cadre. And we look to find people who we can work with over time and who can get to know us and us them because that helps them to work within the system. And yet you're out of the system, and that's helpful too, that you can bring a fresh perspective and are not so embedded in the culture that you aren't able to see, that you can see what others may not be able to see. So I find that certifications are almost a given now. You expect someone who's an external coach to be certified. However, that's one small piece of whether they tend to be effective. We look for people who have a lot of business experience themselves and have their own wisdom to bring to it. Ironic though, isn't it? Because good coaches very rarely insert their own opinions or their own experiences. What I do find though, that from a gravitas and credibility point of view, it's very helpful and it's part of the criteria.
And Julie, what about your internal coaches as you're using your leadership development graduates as coaches and you do the coaching clinics? What do you find are the advantages to that, to using those folks?
It helps to reinforce what they've learned for sure, and it also helps them to give back. So when we invest in our leaders and give them extensive development, we say the part of the deal is that you come back and you give back to others. And most of them do that with great gusto. They really love doing it. And some not so much. And frankly, if someone's not into it, I really don't encourage them to become an internal coach because just like a coach has to be motivated, or rather the person being coached has to be motivated, the coach needs to be highly motivated as well.
Makes sense. And June, I know that part of your role actually is as an internal coach, so could you talk a little bit about what you see as the challenges and advantages?
So I think that, when I think about being an internal coach, I think credibility is really important for the individual, right? So because I've worked for the company, and because I know what the culture is like, I know what the current climate is like, I know the business imperatives, the talent strategy. These are all things that help me have sort of instant credibility. You know, I have individuals who have been referred to me. They never ask me about my training as a coach. They're just, I have instant credibility with them. And it shouldn't be that way, but I have instant credibility with them because I run a function and because I'm in there. The hard part about that is that they try to pull me into mentoring them versus coaching them. And so I have to be really on guard for that. So the other benefit of being an internal coach is that I'm privy to all of the talent initiatives, right? So I know what we're training folks as they go through these tiered leadership development programs. I also know what unique talent strategies and programs we have going on in the Annuities division, so I can speak that language and I can reinforce those principles. So that's really a lot of the benefit. On the other side, the side that they're trying to pull me in to mentor them, is the privacy issue and the trust issue. So an external coach, I think that there's more of a trust there that they're not going to come back and talk to so-and-so and whatever. And it's really a challenge because I hear a lot of stuff. And so I walk this fine line because I know this is going on over here and that's going on over there. So it's really kind of, that's a big challenge being an internal coach. And sometimes, even though you remind leaders that this information is private, right? Even the assessments, I do live 360 interviews, it's private. I'll still, you know, from time to time get someone asking me, well, what's going on, or how'd that 360 go? And I just have to very diplomatically remind them that this data is owned by the coaching. My former boss used to say Jim would rather die than tell me anything that's going on with her clients. And otherwise, I'm out of business. They will not trust me.
So we do not have a dedicated or designated group of internal coaches. I think a lot of the expectations around external coaching is actually coupled with our internal organization. And so there are, in the student time, there are advantages of that because the HR partners who support the executives are there with them day to day. They kind of see them in action. They see them in meetings. They see and hear what people are saying about them that they may not be saying to them. And so they have this kind of information that they can more in the moment as part of their ongoing dialogue or discussion with these leaders provide that feedback and coaching. The downside of that is they are part of the system as well. And so, and having to walk and wear many hats in an HR role of both trying to help this person get accomplished what they need to get accomplished, move the business, deal with people, and then also coaching. I think that creates a challenge of having all of those multiple relationships as you try and work with that one person. So for us, that's kind of where we kind of walk that line, and then and the flip side, that's part of where we are driving towards at least beginning to engage more external coaches who can have the type of relationships that you talk about, which is really trusted advisor. But what we find our executives to look for is the credibility factor. And we find that initially their expectation, what they want is, I want somebody out there who's an external coach who understands my business, who understands what I do. And so we have to really kind of talk about, you've got a lot of people who can help you in terms of understanding what you do. There's a question about whether or not you listen to them anyways. But these are people who really about leadership, about how you show up. That's where their expertise is, and that's where they're going to add value to you.
So I was just going to add one other thing, and I think it's important for we as internal coaches to turn down business when it's inappropriate, right? And it's maybe not as expedient. So, for example, if someone really needs to skill up on something like communications, if that's not my area of expertise, I shouldn't be taking that business. I should be looking at the most expedient way to solve the executive's issue, and that sometimes means going externally to get someone who really focuses on communication, for example.
Great, thank you. So I'm cognizant of the time, and I can see there's a hand out there. So we're going to take some questions from the audience, and then we'll see where we stand time-wise.
I don't need a mic. I have two questions, if it's okay. The first is, coaching comes out of humanistic psychology, and that things aren't wrong. But part of what I'm hearing is, in my own experience, is that coaching is mostly used now in corporations to fix something that's broken, not strategic enough. 360s where there's gaps, where there's holes, and people not managing in a way that that's rough or whatever. So Roger Federer has a coach, and nothing's wrong. So can you speak to that about why is that still? Why is coaching being used in this way instead of people seeing it as an asset to higher performance, higher levels of sustainable performance, and not fixing what's wrong?
I am in full agreement with you. Coaching is not about when things are wrong and need to be fixed. In fact, in our core guidelines, it's one of our first deeply felt guidelines that if this is a situation where you're working to fix someone, you're not a good candidate for coaching. So we reserve our coaching for people who are already considered high performers, high potential. They are likely to have a great number of strengths they can build on, and maybe one or two things that they can get even stronger on. But as you say, it's sustained high performance, maybe high performance in a situation that person's never encountered before. So I'm not a tennis player, so I won't be able to do an eloquent metaphor here, but if you were working with Roger to take his game to an entirely new level, a coach might help with that. And I think that's one of the great insights around coaching that people begin to get, that really good athletes, whether they're corporate athletes or athletes playing some other game, benefit from coaching. And that makes the coaching more desirable as well. Like many organizations, I think if you go down that path of assigning coaches when you have someone who's in trouble, then when you want to assign to give coaching and provide that benefit for someone who's a high flyer, she's going to reject it because she thinks that means something not right in paradise.
What she said.
So we do. Some of the coaching does come out of that spirit of how can we take the strength that you have and amplify. And there's also a reality, I don't know if you experience this, where you can give people 10 pieces of feedback and one of them is negative and they're going to look at the negative. And so sometimes you kind of have to almost start where they are, where they're focused, and then help them to move towards how can you begin to think about your strengths as opposed to just focus on those things that you think are wrong, because the reality is probably not as wrong as you think they are. And so for us, sometimes we find that that's, while yes, our intent, particularly around high potentials and around some of the more transformational work that we're doing is around higher order. At the same time, sometimes you got to start the conversation with where they think they're broken, or where they think it needs to be fixed and move on.
And I'll just add to that, I think it's great when an organization wants to invest in an individual to say, here's where we need more from you. And I agree with you, it does come out in the form of you need to be more strategic, or you need to develop your team more. And I think one of the beauties of coaching is that the expectation is that the individual has the potential to change and to grow and to develop. That's the essence of coaching, is to help them bring that out. It's not a mentoring situation. I'm not going to tell someone, here's what you should be doing to fix that problem. It's the whole humanistic psychology is they have it in them. They know how to do this. They can reach their own potential. But I think, you bring up a good point. How can we change the conversation around these gaps that supervisors, how do we change that conversation with them? But I will say one other thing, when the supervisor is not direct, and they say, oh, this is all for your development. They show up on my doorstep and I'm hearing all of these things in the feedback,
And that they're showing up and they're saying, oh, well, I've been chosen for this. It doesn't create that burning platform when they say, hey, you have more potential. We think you can change these things and you will contribute at a higher level.
Karen, if I could just add one quick comment. I'll take an example. One of the delights of my role is to get to work with so many organizations, including some represented here. I had a conversation about 3 months ago with the person who heads up executive development, so the top, say, 200 or so at Amazon. And the question they're facing, and which coaching I think will be a part of the solution, is how do we lead at scale? It's growing so fast that the leaders they have, who are excellent one day, are, what do they need to be the next day? And something more intensive like that is a use that they're thinking about. So less coaching to fix what's broke and more coaching to help people who have a huge remit drive success in their area. It's what I'm starting to see some of in the outside world, because of course, again, we're coaching people outside, and if they don't want it, they don't have to have it. It's just a part of the service.
Thank you so much. Other questions? Yeah.
Have you guys ever encountered a situation where the CEO, a new CEO, came in and said, "Oh my God, this coaching stuff, that's such BS. I gotta get the numbers up. So cut out all this stuff and get these people performing." All right? That's what I want to do. Or is that a bad question?
Well, maybe we could ask, have you faced resistance from leaders, and what kind of resistance do you hear when you bring up coaching?
It's a good question, and that's also a good question, and one I can, and maybe a little more equipped to answer. What I love to do if I'm wanting to explore and share the value of coaching is to be able to point to examples in the organization where someone who has been coached has taken their game to another level, they're thriving in a way that they weren't before. And sometimes it's not immediately apparent to the person who's skeptical that that's part of how that person got there. That you can show those success stories that can overcome some of the skepticism. And what that CEO is driving for is performance. And so the bottom line is showing how coaching makes a difference to performance and giving some tangible examples.
I would say that we have internally evangelist people who are true believers, and they tend to be high performers. And so the conversation works its way up to leadership. And that, for our division at least, when a new leader comes in, we don't sit down and brief them on the program. If they don't attend the full 2 days, they have to stay in the dark. We've been pretty rigid about it, and eventually they give in and go, and then they're like, oh, I get it. So that's a different approach. It might not work in the situation you mentioned.
For us, it has been, yes, there has been those periods of time where, because of what was going on in the business and the pressures, a lot of the focus around people development, that those efforts have waned. And so I think there is a recognition that we can't get to the next level where we want to get to by continuing that. And so now there's more of the appetite around investing in developing people and thinking about coaching and these kinds of tools that we have in terms of being able to help our people be engaged, help our leaders, I think, deal in this world of ambiguity and all the challenges that they're facing, and having to learn on the dime. I haven't had that particular example, but I have had a leader say that this is the job of the supervisor. Why do we need coaching? And that's when heard from others on the panel say you have to show how coaching is complementary to the supervisor, does not replace the supervisor, and then talk about, give examples and show the benefits and really how it works.
Other questions from the audience at this point? Yeah. So how is coaching being measured, the return on investment, which is a huge issue in the field right now, or a big trend towards that. So is that something that you're paying attention to, and what's being done in that area, if anything?
I'm reminded of something that Maureen was talking about, which is tying leadership coaching to transformation. So one of the best metrics is the leader who's in charge of making a major transformation successful at that transformation. It's not a hard and fast, performance increased by X%. It's more binary, right? Was that successful, and did we observe that leader working differently than she did before in order for it to be successful? Another measure that is a little loose is how well is that person thriving. So I think some folks who have been coached by external coaches in our business who continue to succeed and draw back on lessons they learned through coaching. And it's probably not visible to most people in the organization. Only a handful of people probably know that individual has been coached, but we know, and we see that, and their leaders know. And that's what allows them to be enthusiastic about continuing to invest in coaching. I think Michael said this about tomorrow, your business is doing well, so if people keep coming down.
Okay, it's a whole different scenario.
I think we're still wrestling with that issue, and so similar to what Julie said, I think for us right now, it is around, we're very behavioral in terms of being able to identify what are key behaviors. And so are we seeing more of those kinds of behaviors? Are we anecdotally seeing that? Are people observing that? I think that's for us where we will probably focus most of our efforts around seeing whether it's having, we want to be impact driven. So as opposed to measurement driven, impact driven. That's where I was going to go as well, because we look, that's why it's so important to have an action plan that's been signed off by the supervisor. So you're identifying the 1, 2, or 3 things, it's generally around 3 things, 3 behaviors that need to change. And then at the midpoint at the end of the coaching engagement, you're going back and you're having a trio conversation with the supervisor and the coachee and the coach and saying, how are we doing towards those goals? And you, at the end, hopefully you really make some headway. So that's the measurement. The kind of goals, like, okay, you want sales increase of 10%, or I don't come across that in the coaching. That's not the goal of the coaching. It's typically behavioral.
There were some other hands up, and
hi. 2 disruptive examples and then a question. In 2007, an American guy was in Paris looking for a cab and couldn't get it. All of a sudden saw a lot of cars going by with many people in it, and then put together the app, Uber, and did extremely well. As a matter of fact, the medallion costs in New York have gone down $300,000, as in today's Wall Street Journal. Significant. By 2012, some design guys from upstate New York and RISD were in San Francisco, and the design conference oversold. So what they had is they had mattresses, and what they decided to do is sell the mattresses, and it became Airbnb. Airbnb right now has more rooms than most hotel chains in the world. Uber has more accessibility to cabs in most big places. My job with you as far as coaching would be to destroy you. That would be my intent. So how are you going to fend against someone like me that's out to take away your share of the market, IBM, Prudential, your share of the market, destroy you, and you're a little harder because you're doing research. But I'm just curious, in coaching, is it so conventional that we all do the same things and end up with the same results? Whereas this guy, Kalanick, with Uber, I would pay a lot for that thinker as opposed to having 100 other people that can recite 12 12s or 144, et cetera, et cetera. Just responding to that, I would be curious. What do you do to compete against that type of person?
So we actually have stepped away from competency models for now. Made a conscious decision, our senior executives made a conscious decision to step away from a competency model because we felt things are moving so fast and so furiously and so disruptive that a competency model that we put on the wall is just going to take us too long. So we actually are more thinking about something to do with directionality, ideas about transformation that help us to be disruptive, to think about being disruptive, and then looking at how can we get more effective at helping leaders to adopt some of those behaviors. But we say, here are examples of the kinds of things that help you to be disruptive, But don't just stop here. You got to be able to really define it for yourself. And so for us, that's one of the ways that we are trying to at least, put up, defend against all the people out there to disrupt us.
I'll take a shot at that real quick. I will make it real quick because the coaching kind of comes in as a part of it, but not as the primary thing. So I'll be meeting a couple of times, actually 3 times now, it looks like, over this next coming month with some business units, part of one of the organizations represented out there. I won't say who, just to say they're really big. I won't be dealing with their CIO, but dealing with the CEOs. And we're working with their teams and talking to them about digital, how to look at what's happening with the digital agenda, how to recognize digital business moment, things that Gartner calls it. So we'll educate them a little bit on what they need to be looking for to start thinking that way. But then we'll be working with these leaders to say, look, what are the kind of questions you need to be armed with to get your staff, for your staff to get their staff to start thinking differently and leading differently in an entirely different world. And so there's definitely a coach-like aspect to that. It's teaching them to, I like to say, lead from a place of ignorance as opposed to a place of knowledge. Here's what we don't know, here's what we have to be asking, and if this person down there working for him, working for her, has the answer, we need to make it viable for that information to come back up. So to tie it back to coaching, if we aren't teaching people to interact in a, what I would call a coach-like manner, then we're probably going to get Ubered or Airbnb.
Thank you.
So I think we might have time for one more question. Are you finding at all that you're drawing on any of the neuroleadership information? They're learning a lot about brain development and how we can change the brain. Are you drawing on any of that information? Specifically, I was thinking about David Rock at the Neuroleadership Institute.
I think that we actually are just at the beginning parts of that. I mean, there's a fascination, as you imagine, within IBM. There are a lot of researchers who do a lot around cognitive computing and understanding the brain and using developing chips that function like the brain. A little scary, but yes, we do. And so I think there's a fascination, I think, with it kind of particularly from my kind of audience, where it is a lot of engineering and scientist backgrounds, being able to utilize that kind of work may help us to gain some more traction today. So thank you for bringing it up.
As Maureen mentioned, when you work with a lot of scientists, there's a natural fascination with that whole realm of research. And in fact, it's provided a bit of an entree for people to be even more curious about coaching and the impact of coaching because they can see the science behind it.
And I'll just add to that. That earlier I mentioned the executive development program, and that we're certifying these executives in coaching, and the David Rock program, we have a customized program developed by and for us.
And we do it extensively as well in a lot of different areas.
Great. So in summary, I think we've heard a lot about how coaching is making an impact to the business and to people in businesses in lots of different ways. And we've heard how personal transformation is leading to organizational transformation. And definitely a theme about building corporate culture, coaching cultures, and leveraging internal resources, leaders as coaches. So I want to thank our panelists so much for sharing their expertise and their different perspectives on this topic. It's been fascinating. So thank you, June, Maureen, Michael, and Julie. Turn it over to Ross.
Thanks, Karen. Let me just echo how valuable tonight was. I mean, the show was good, but the content was just incredible. So a special thank you to Karen for organizing, to June, Maureen, Michael, and Julie for just delivering just fabulous content. Because that's the type of stuff that takes us from where we are to where we can change the world. And that's so important. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it, as we all do. So, we have a couple of few things to cover before we close up for the evening, and before we get to start visiting again with each other. First is, for those of you who know Edwards Deming, in God We Trust, Everybody Else Bring Data. On your tables are evaluations. We look at them very carefully. And we use that data to shape what we deliver back to you. Because this is a feedback-intensive culture, and if you have ideas, if you have thoughts, we want to know. So thank you. Please fill those out. A couple of things that are coming up. October 19th. Oh, just so you know, there's coming up on October 19th is Brian Matamore. He'll be talking about innovation. I have no idea, but I'm going to get you in a second, Sean. It's Brian Matamore, and he'll be talking about innovation. And part of that approach to innovation is how do you bring in ideas? How do you make those ideas part and parcel of the entire organization? So Brian is a previous ATD's Got Talent winner, 2014. And the one who's egging me on is Sean Brawley. He's the 2015 winner. So just, we've got some real award winners who are just top drawer. And Sean's background is more around coaching. So, speaking of coaching, we have a community of practice coming up on October 29th. Dial into the website so you know where it is. It's going to be at Merit 7 in Norwalk. It's a new location, new time. So it's part of the value proposition that the chapter provides to the people in the profession, beyond just the members of the chapter. There's no cost. We subsidize it. So those of you who are not members, ante up, join, become members. That's the money we use to subsidize everybody else. And but as part of the value that we provide, you don't have to be a member to be there. You just need to show up so we know you're coming. Now, a special thank you to our sponsor, Dale Carnegie and Bob Dixon. There are 2 books that he is quite willing to raffle off and let you take with you. So if you have not turned in a card and dropped it into one of the little baskets, we're going to pull from those in just a minute. And the other thing is we're going to, if there's 2 baskets, one for the books and another one for a free chapter meeting. So if you haven't put in a card for either of those or both of them or whatever, let us know. Drop it in. Michelle's got them. And actually, can I get some help? Anne, would you help Michelle? Thank you.
I have the meeting.
Okay, so Anne has got the books, and Michelle has got the meeting. So we'll get those couple of things. We've got a couple more here. So I want to thank those who dialed in tonight. You're missing the raffle for the meeting, you're missing the raffle for the books, you're missing a great dinner, and more important, you're missing fabulous connections and conversation. But thank you for joining us tonight. Okay, this is for the meeting. Everybody who's there wants to be there or be square. Jeff Willett. Jeff, there we go. Anybody else for the books? We got 2 books.
So next meeting.
Okay. Anne, we play man and wife for 1 second. First book, Joan Learn. And then in statistics, this is called sampling without replacement. That's all right. And we have Brian. Okay. So I want to thank you all for tonight. I hope I see you all on October 19th. And if not then possibly in the community of practice. Don't forget our connections with the International Coach Federation. Have a safe trip. Enjoy talking. This is Monday.